5 and played a lot of games. How important might it be just for you to get Eric in tomorrow?
Very important. Very important. It's nice to. I mean, obviously you pick a guy up on free agency day and you're excited about him. He's done a lot already for guys, as you guys have known and listened to the other players speak of their encounters and interactions, I should say, with Eric. And you watched him practice today. He's easy to pick out in practice because his size and how hard he works, and he's exploding here and exploding there. So to get in a game and get around our players and in our system is something we're looking forward to that. And tomorrow seems to be the day.
With 1 week in between the regular season start, is it important to get a lot of your regulars into the game tomorrow? I mean, it'll be 6 days.
It's part of the plan was to get as you move along in camp. We had 5 games and 7 nights, I think. To get through that, you're using 55, 60 guys, whatever we ended up using. But that stretch is to look at guys, look at progress, look at guys that will be in Rochester. Give those guys an opportunity to get acclimated with us and the league itself a bit. And the last couple are usually your team, and it's just part of the plan. So, tomorrow will be pretty much the group, minus maybe just a guy or two, and that was just part of the original mapping of it out. Each and every year, really.
In what ways have you seen Zach develop and display confidence as camp has progressed?
I think he's been good from onset, so it doesn't appear that he's actually developed through camp. He's just shown yesterday what he showed on day one. There's been no wear or tear or drop. You would say, you would suspect the first day when you see somebody come out and they're really, really good, your question is, well, that player had a great day one. Can he sustain that? And that's your question. And that would be the normal question, was especially when you don't know the player as well. He's sustained it all the way through. So I don't look at it as if he's gotten better. He was really good day one, and he's been able to sustain it all the way through. He was one of our better players last night in the game again, and that's a real good indicator.
You put him with Tage and Jeff, and you've talked before about you've had pairs all around. When you had to put him there, so Alex has to go somewhere else as he's gone through camp. What goes into when you looked at Alex, putting him with Casey, putting him with Dylan? How did that?
Well, we do know. I mean, everybody in this room knows that Skinner, Thompson, and Tuck are really good together. When guys are coming into camp, they sometimes, they feel a little bit clunky. They don't have a rhythm. It's a really good time to have those guys apart, because I know if I want to put them back together tomorrow, they're in better shape than when the training camp started, and they didn't get in their own head because they didn't finish where they left off 6 months ago, and the expectation, oh my God, what happened to the Tuck, Thompson, Skinner line? And it's preseason game 3. You avoid all that stuff that could just cloud it. So there was no benefit there to having those 3 players together for the first week and a half. They will hit stride and rhythm immediately upon putting them together. They've done that pretty consistently in the past. So by virtue of that, there was no need. And then why wouldn't we look to see if there's some chemistry developing somewhere else? Again, as we saw, we really needed Middlestead to have chemistry with Tuck and Skinner at the end of last year, and they did. And so now's a good time to work different players with different personnel, even though on opening day they might be back to Skinner, Tuck, and Thompson. They're very familiar. That won't be a problem. But what if game 3 we have an injury and we lose a guy, and we never took this opportunity that we have to develop chemistry other ways? That's why we shift pairs around when we do, because you know as well as I do, it is an absolute statistical guarantee NHL teams are going to have to go through injuries and shuffle things around. It's part of the business. And so we're preparing for shuffling around because that will happen.
As methodical as you were in outlining that philosophy, I'm switching to Devin Levi. You encountered a player who's so methodical and analytical to the point, that in his process that, just the way he thinks, and you encounter someone that young.
I think I mentioned to you guys, there were two goalies that I'm very familiar with that had incredible NHL careers. Both of them I roomed with in college while I was at Wisconsin. Mike Richter and Curtis Joseph. And he has a lot of attributes combined of those two guys. Curtis Joseph was an amazing athlete. Flexibility, mobility, agility. And Mike Richter was a very cerebral. Mike and I would sit there and talk about, this is back in the 80s, about books we'd read, our favorite authors on sports psychology. He was very methodical in that and very knowledgeable of the position itself, of goaltending and the angles and shooters and Devin has both of those qualities. He's an amazing athlete, quick as any goalie there is. So he's athletically gifted, but he also has that real cerebral side. So it's a combination of two that I think of, and two pretty good ones.
Right, and so obviously you hope it translates, and it should. I mean, that's what you count on.
If you have a love of the game, and when usually what follows love of the game is work ethic, that's all those things combined is really good indicators. Some guys are just born talented, and sometimes it's a curse. They don't love what they do. They're just good at it. They're just big and strong, and they're just good at it, but they don't love it. And that's sometimes a curse because they don't like to put the work in. And but we've done a really good job. I say we, Kevin, and our whole staff, of getting people in here that love the game of hockey, and Devin fits that.
Does he get in tomorrow so he doesn't sit 2 weeks?
He does, yeah. Don't write it though.
We've seen Jacob at his best, he hugs so well and so forth. Last year, what does he have to maybe regain to get back to where he has been at certain points in the last couple of years, I guess?
A little bit of what I mentioned about J.J. Peterka and young guys. When you're in a season and things don't go well, they tend to compound, and you can't get out of it. And for J.J. to just get out of it, you realize, what you experienced, what you gained in the experience of the challenges, the adversity, the season itself. And Jacob Bryson had a tough season last year. Casey Middlestead had very tough periods. And when you're in it, you don't have any time to fix it, really. Your body's completely worn out. Obviously, your psyche's a little messed with. And you're practicing full tilt, which means you got to just cure up to survive a practice even in the NHL, and then you play a game the next day, and you don't get the time. And so I think with Jacob Bryce, he's a very intelligent guy, and he works hard, but he never had the hindsight he has now. And so I think he's taken last year lots of messages that were relayed to him, and it's hard to make certain adjustments, and you're in the flame and the heat of it. But when you get to step back for 4 or 5 months, you really then you get to soak that experience up, and typically the negative of maybe failing this or failing that, and you get time to breathe, and it actually is a help to you at that point. Going through that was a help to you, and that's a lot of players develop that way, unfortunately. A lot of people in jobs develop that way, unfortunately. Yeah, it's the bad days that make you an experienced person. And so I think with Bryce, it's to this point, that's what we've seen. He's really had a very good camp, and he's been more assertive and more confident.
Is there any update on Matthew and his injury?
Yeah, progress, and we expect him to join us in practice. We have a pregame skate tomorrow. I would expect he'll be out there with the main group then and right with the main group at that point. Still recovering though from the injury, but he'll be able to practice with us to better gauge where he's at, and obviously, he's got to get back to pace and conditioning because he's been out as long as he has.